Is the gentleman I heard about first by seeing his picture on the cover page of the American Free Press, the great freedom paper, independent freedom paper, who is co-sponsor of this conference. And the headline was something like, the 911 survivor sues the Bush for racketeering to expose the fraud of the 911. Something like that, you know. And me being a student of the law, know what racketeering is. That's a law you use that the government passed in the 70s to use against mobsters, you know, the mafia, you know. And I thought, right on, you know. This guy got some cojones, you know. He's willing to go to court and sue the President of the United States, you know, as, you know, exposing the lies and fraud. But unfortunately, I had no way of getting a hold of the guy, you know. Couldn't find him. So next time we had a freedom conference, I had the fortune of being put in touch with him through American Free Press, and I got a little problem with him. People mistake me for him, and vice versa. They say, people come to me and say, are you William? Are you? No. I used to be mistaken for Eric Estrada. Now I got to be mistaken for William Rodriguez, you know? So, what a way to go. So I said, no, I'm not him. I'm sorry. The good-looking guy's over there. So, but this man, you know, his story says so much by itself that for a man to literally be the last man out of the North Tower, the man that saved hundreds of lives, literally. If it wasn't for him, folks, more people than in this ballroom are here would have been dead. If it wasn't for his courage. If it wasn't for his selflessness, because so many others would have just got the heck out and cover your behind and don't look back. But he, because of his love for people and his caring and his courage, he saved hundreds of lives. He not only was recognized by the U.S. government as a national hero, but he was recognized by Freedom Law School as a national hero, because he truly is. And please help me give a warm hand of welcome again to another recipient of our great awards last time, a good friend of mine now, a great friend, Mr. William Rodriguez, your speaker for tonight.
Do we look alike? Payman doesn't look like me. No, definitely not. The problem with Payman is I have a good impersonation of Payman. First time he called me, I couldn't understand nothing what he said. And his enthusiasm just was so loud. He was what? Am I lying? Am I lying? Am I lying? Anyway, Payman is a character in his own mind. But anyway, I love the guy. You can tell the difference. Payman has a white hair over here. I got it right here. You see? But what an honor, pleasure, and privilege to be here with so many people that I know for the fight. The fight is not being a fight that is being fought alone. I mean, you got the guys over here. You got Dylan Avery, Corey. You have the whole crew. doing their own bit. You have Lynn Pence, Barbara Honegger. Yeah, basically everybody here have done their own little bit. It was a pleasure to have our first interview together with Professor Jones, which was an experience by itself. I was very humbled. Dr. Dart Rocky, who has been a friend for a while, and he wanted to marry my wife. You imagine I'm doing an interview with a guy, and he's talking about depleted uranium. I said, I should have married your wife. She's too beautiful for you. Anyway, my name is William Rodriguez. And can I have one of those spoons? Let me see. All right. All right. A lot of people don't know. Let me see if I have my... Oh, I don't have it. A lot of people don't know that I was a magician for 30 years. Thank you. He knew. 30 years of my life I dedicated to this kind of exposés. I was actually a helper of the amazing Randy, the biggest debunker of everything that is psychic phenomena. Anyway, one of the things that we used to do, we took Uri Geller, who was a famous parapsychologist, and he used to... Watch this. Oh, it's not working. Yeah. Oh, here you go. He started bending like he was rubber. Look. Watch. Watch. Anyway, what you have here is a demonstration. This was just an illusion. It was an illusion, and I say 9/11 was an illusion as well. It was created the same way. You have the Abbey file. Now, this is a little compendium of some of the things that we did last year. As you can see, it's a movie. This is a big march that I have put against the war. We have 275,000 people when I expected only 10,000 people. It's some of the things on the news about all the efforts to get to the truth. Do you have sound? Okay, we hang on. These are presentations all over the world. Yeah, you can see... Yeah, somebody excited, that's right. Basically bringing the truth about what happened and the problems with the victims. This is Telemundo Network, and actually Univision Network. There's radios all over the nation. It's all right, we can do it without the sound. This was the LA Hollywood conference. This is in Japan. I spoke at the Japanese diet. I don't know why they call it diet. Everybody was fat there. It's our version of Congress. And it's one of the other presentations that we did in Japan. This is Islamic Channel in England. Yeah, Islam Channel. It would be interesting to hear the sound, but do it without the sound anyways. I do the voiceover myself. It's my voice anyway. The milk price has to come down. Anyway, well, you see, this is in London. We just did a tour. We just came back from United Kingdom, where we were speaking on every city of the UK. Yeah. Some of the press coverage. It's okay. It's okay. This is in Venezuela, talking to the military foreign relations. Oh, this is in Malaysia. Now, this is very interesting. It was the first time that 9/11 survivor speaks in front of 22,000 Muslims. And they heard this story, and it was so amazing that the support that I received from them, even though they have been criminalized by our government and the world, was totally the opposite, because they embraced me, they showed respect, they showed compassion that I never received from my own government. So it was a very, I got 28 bodyguards, because they figured something will happen to me there. But it was very, very interesting. I mean, 22,000 people, all Muslims, listening to what happened. It was just amazing. So I was very honored, and it's part of the mission that we have done all over the world. I'm going to Malaysia now, to Penang, to speak at the Islamic International Conference, and then I will be back in Malaysia in June to speak to the same Islamic International Conference Part 2, held by former Prime Minister Dr. Tun Mahathir Mohamad. You can stop it. I'm going to put the slideshow. Go for the slide. First of all, do you understand my accent? Well, I look like Ricky Ricardo. Say hello to my little friend. No, don't say hello. Yeah. Anyway, this is in Malaysia. I did a presentation for Dr. Tun Mahathir Mohamad, the father of the country. The lady right next to me is the former United Nations envoy. They were very interested in some of the other meetings that we had. 4 press conferences. I appear on every television show, even game shows over there. It's funny because I didn't understand why I have to do game shows. Every television shows over there, talking about 9/11. I will open every day on the national news for 2 minutes. At the end of my visit to Malaysia, they said that the Malay mindset about what happened on 9/11 will never be the same. As a matter of fact, there was a huge, something that never came to the news over here. There was a huge protest in front of the American embassy by 50 clerics asking to answer the questions of what I was putting to them. And of course, they used 100 policemen to stop the clerics. This is a presentation for the brothers, and then I went to Venezuela. Everybody knows that story. Thank you. And you know how Hugo loves the president. You met with the devil! You met with the devil! It smells like sulfur here. No, it's Payman who was there. You're a fruiting. Whatever. Anyway, Venezuela was very interesting because I was doing something called disaster management. Actually, I wasn't talking all about what happened on 9/11, but I was trying to train the government on something that we call the blueprint to avoid future emergencies. As you know, there were so many mistakes, errors done for the victims, and we wanted to avoid this to happen in any other country. And as I was talking over there, of course, I mentioned the issues that the government never answered the questions for the victims, and the problems that we were trying to address with the 9/11 Commission, who lied to us. Funny, interesting thing happened that at the hotel that I was staying, I get called from the director of the hotel, and when I go downstairs, he said, "Mr. Rodriguez, the reason that we have called you here is because somebody came claiming to be an FBI agent. He showed a badge, and he wanted to have a list of the guests that were staying in the hotel." He said, "What does that have to do with me?" He said, "Well, you're the only person in the hotel that is doing interviews. I'm talking about 9/11. And we don't have any other guest that is on TV." And he said, "Well, did you give him the list?" I said, "No. They have no jurisdiction in our country." Good. But anyway, again, I was very afraid because I have never found myself in the middle of a international political intrigue. And I did what I thought was the right thing at that moment. That day I had an interview on a television station, and I just said the whole thing. There's an FBI guy, he came to the hotel. I said exactly what the guy told me. Oh, but what a surprise. I get a phone call, and it's a call from the palace in Caracas. You get a call from the palace. It's like getting a call from the White House. So I go to the palace and I meet with Dr. Nicolás Maduro. Nicolás Maduro, I love that name, Maduro. Nicolás Maduro, at that time, was the president of the National Assembly. He said, Mr. Rodriguez, it's an honor to have you here. Please sit down. And you know, when they tell you that, the first thing you do is looking for the cameras, looking to see who's behind you. Because I was scared. I sat down and Mr. Maduro said, the reason that we have called you here is because, number one, we believe your story. We have checked you out. Our intelligence have checked you out. We know who you are. And we believe what you said because we know who comes into our country and who leaves the country. And we identify that FBI agent. We know who it is. Oh, yes, very scary. So he said, because you are in our country, we are going to protect you. So they gave me 5 bodyguards, because they said that my own government will do a hit on me in Venezuela and use it as an excuse that it was done by the Venezuelan people against a national hero to have an excuse to invade or to do whatever they wanted. And they didn't want that to happen, and they wanted to protect me, and that's exactly what happened. I got protection, and with the cars, with the bulletproof windows and everything, really weird. But I was able to talk directly to the people in the National Assembly. He ordered a documentary about my life to be filmed on the grounds of the palace for 5 days because he wanted to have historical facts. In case something happens to me, they can produce this all over the world, make it available to the world. So that was, thank you. Very crazy itself. Ladies and gentlemen, I was a janitor at the World Trade Center, and I found myself after 9/11 writing legislations because the politicians didn't want to get close to the victims because they said that they didn't want to be accused, that they were taking advantage of a political situation with a disaster, so they left the victims and survivors alone to fend for themselves. So that's exactly what I did. I took it upon myself to write legislation. For example, I work on the Tax Relief Act for victims of terrorism that passed in Congress. That erases the taxes for any victims of terrorism for 2 years. Sorry, I couldn't do any more. Sorry. I should have known. Then I work on, this is when I did the benefit. It's called the Scholarship Fund Program for the victims. The funny thing is that from the 20 years that I work at the World Trade Center, 10 of those years, I was the janitor for the governor's office, Mario Cuomo, who was the governor of the Democratic governor for New York at that time. And I had the routine of the work to set up the podium, put the water for the governor, set up the chairs so everybody will be there, and greet the journalists as they came in. And that was my job. Little did I know is that God was preparing me for something bigger. God was giving me the tools to learn by osmosis that later on, because of the exposure of dealing with so many politicians, I was there bored to death, giving bagels and donuts and coffee to all these politicians that were talking about legislation. By osmosis, I learned the whole process and how to deal with politicians and how to get answers. And again, little did I know that God was preparing me for something that big later on. And use and abuse by politicians and celebrities, they call it photo opportunity. I call it photo abuse because... well, she's nice anyway. After the 9/11, I was very concerned about what happened, and I went directly to the then Attorney General of New York, Eliot Spitzer, to ask for a formal investigation about what happened on 9/11. This is 3 months after 9/11. Mr. Spitzer, okay, denied our request. He's now the governor of New York. You see? But I had a good relationship with the office and other issues related to the victims. But that investigation request was denied before even the 9/11 Commission was created. Media expert for countless of newspapers in New York, media expert for 3 television stations, CNN en Español, the Spanish version of CNN, Telemundo Network, the Spanish station, and Univision Network. I did the first march against the war in New York, and I was highly criticized because I used soldiers. You see, that banner says, "Stop the war, stop the killing." And again, I was so criticized that I was doing that I felt so embarrassed. I said, okay, I won't do it again. I'm sorry. I feel so bad. Honestly, I felt bad that I was criticized because I was using soldiers to start the march. We got 250,000 people there. 92 people were arrested. And I said, well, I just want to tell you that next week I'm going to do the same thing, and I promise you I will not use soldiers. They didn't like it again. You see? Who understand these people? Who you cannot make them happy. What a problem. Don't take it against me. Don't shoot me. Where is his other hand? Well, when you get invited to the White House, you always say, yes, it's a nice place. Like I said, this is when I brought the 9/11 Commission to New York. They didn't want to go to New York. Imagine, the event happened in New York City. All the hearings were done where? Washington. Say, no. You got to bring the whole commission to New York to answer to the families. We have the place filled up with families. That's the part when they're doing the parts of the collapse. The lady right next to me lost her son, was a firefighter. We're crying because they're putting a video, and is the moment when Mayor Giuliani was called to testify, and the whole commission treated him like this big hero, and the family members got so angry that we got evicted. The families got evicted from the hearings. Would you believe this? 9/11 Commission report. A lot of people don't know that after 9/11, once that you get recognized, I didn't have anything to show for that, because when they give you an award, they're not giving you money. I was struggling. I didn't know what to do with that. And but we were still asking for an investigation, a formal investigation. So we decided to go to Congress and ask for the House of Means and Committee to create this investigation with 5 family members. We went over there, and you may remember that the president came out and said, we don't need an investigation. We know who did it. The wrong thing to say to the families. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me from here? Yeah. When you lose your son, your daughter, a family member, you have all the rights to demand a formal inquiry because you want to know what was the circumstances that led to the death of that loved one. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't have that right. But that's exactly what they were saying to us. You don't have the right to do that. As a matter of fact, they have this political machinery of public relations at the White House that went against the families not to do the investigation. You see, after 9/11, because I was doing legislations, I was working with the victims, I was right there every moment. They said, this is the guy that we need to run for political office. This is why we need to get the Latino vote. There's 30 million Hispanic Latino voters in the United States. He said, Willie Rodriguez is the one that is going to bring the votes. And I was going for it. I was going for it because I did not know that I was being used, that I was being utilized by the Republicans. I was part of the whole lie. I was. My Republican years. Yes. But think about this. They wanted me to run for office. They sent me to the Governing Institute, an institute where they train politicians in New Jersey. And I said, well, I don't have a job. I'll take the training. I need to work. Remember, I lost the World Trade Center. That was my only means of earning a living. And I took the training, and I learned that the techniques that they were using was the same techniques they were teaching me. So what I did was I did a reunion with all the family groups and the family members. Said, we're going to use every mother, every daughter, every son, and we put them on every television show to ask for a formal investigation. And it worked. It worked. And once the White House said, okay, we're going to do it, but we want somebody to represent the administration. He said, who would that be? Say, Henry Kissinger. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the only time that the whole world has been united to help the victims with compassion, with donations. The whole world. And a lot of people don't know that Henry Kissinger is considered a war criminal in many countries. A lot of people don't know that. And because of Vietnam and other issues. So when you have this guy is sending the wrong message. We found out through one of the pro bono lawyers that to check on his client list. Now, the meeting with Kissinger. Have you ever heard Henry Kissinger speaking? It's another payment. You cannot understand half of what he says. Mr. Kissinger, we would like to have at your client list. Clients? Oh, no. No clients. The thing is that we knew, all the families knew that Henry Kissinger, on his client list, have clients from Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, all the countries that the administration was claiming to be sponsors of terrorism, and that made it a conflict of interest. Right away. So we said, Mr. Kissinger, we're doing a press conference, and we are going to put this list available. The press conference will be at 12 o'clock next day. Well, Henry Kissinger, the following day, 9 o'clock in the morning, he makes a press conference. I'm removing myself from the 9/11 Commission because I'm too busy. The power of the families. Then we wanted to have a family member to represent us, to represent the families on the 9/11 Commission. Again, just to represent our interest. They never allowed it. They never allowed it. As a matter of fact, we have to create something called the Family Steering Committee, an organization of family groups and family members that will pose questions to the 9/11 Commission so they will answer. From 168, 69 questions, we only have 27 questions answered. 9/11, the 9/11 Commission. So many problems that we had through the whole process. I testified behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, while every other speech, because I call it speech, was done on an open hearing, televised, and it was always done with top people. Chief of the fire department, chief of the armed forces, chief of this, chief of that. But you never heard directly from the people that were inside the building. You didn't. Think about it. How many victims you heard? You didn't. What happened to those people that were there? How come they didn't testify? Oh, they were testifying behind closed doors. I testify, and what a surprise. They come out with 576 pages. My name is not there. You cannot find the name. My story was never even checked. 20-something first responders and firemen that I gave the list to the government to call right away were never called to be interviewed. 15 people injured from the basement were never called to testify. Now don't take anything that I'm saying on my word. The research is out there already for you. Do your own homework. One of the reasons that we do this, so you can understand and do your own homework and take it upon yourself and find the truth because it's out there. On 9/11, I came into work late. I was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. I was a person in charge of all the stairwells of the North Tower. Can you imagine that? One man to clean 110 floors. That was my job. That day I called that I was going to be late. But basically, that's the story that has been out there. Actually, I called that I wasn't going to work. And the supervisor, Anthony Saltalamacchia, said, Rodriguez, you got to make it here because nobody wants to do your job. Do you imagine if, I was, at that time, I was physically fit, and right now I don't think so, but anyway. They said, if you take off from work and I send somebody up there, think about it. Have you ever done 110 flights of stairs? If you ever finish, because I doubt you ever finished it, by the end of the day, your knees will be trembling so much, and it always happened that the person that had to replace me when I got a sick day had to take 3 days off from work to recover. So every time I said I'm taking a day off, they went, no, it's going to cost us. But anyway, I said, okay, he said, please make it to work no matter if you're late. So, okay, I'm going to make it there. A lot of people don't know that I used to live also a block and a half away from the World Trade Center. So he said, you live across the street, for God's sake, just make it to work. Okay, so I made it to work. I made it at 8:30. And I went straight to the B1 office, the basement number 1. The building has 6 sub-levels of basement. B1, B2, B3, all the way down to B6. Now B1 was the support floor for all the companies for the World Trade Center, meaning American Building Maintenance. I worked for that company, and the support office was there. While I'm talking to the supervisor on this door, at the front door, 8:46, we hear, boom! An explosion so loud and so hard that pushes upwards in the air. Upwards. An indication that something just blew up below us. Loud, so loud that all the walls cracked. The false ceiling fell on top of us. And everybody started screaming. The sprinkler system got activated. And the first thing that comes to my mind, oh my God, one of the generators just blew up on the B2 level. You see, the ABM office was right on top, in line with the mechanical room for the Port Authority. And on the mechanical room, you have all the generators, all the water pumps for the air conditioners. You have everything that was mechanical in that area. And of course, the first thing that I'm going to say, well, the generator just blew up. When I'm going to verbalize it, because everybody's screaming in horror, I hear, bah! All the way on the top. The impact of the plane. 2 events separated between 6 and 7 seconds. Alright? I said that they never coordinated right. And when that is loud and hit the top, you know the difference. I work in the building for 20 years. 20 years. I would very easily tell you when the sound comes from the top and when it comes from the bottom. Very easy. And it was 2 different events. You see, I believe, honestly, that there was an initial explosion, maybe to weaken the foundation of the tower, right on the basement. And this is a story that was never investigated by the 9/11 Commission. When that happens, and again, everybody's screaming, a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. A black guy from Honduras who I did not know, named Felipe David. This guy worked for a company called Aramark, a supply company for the vending machines. He was on the B2 level filling up his cart with the supplies for the vending machines. When this explosion happened, he put his hands to cover his face, and all the skin was pulled from under his armpits on both arms, and it was hanging on the top of the fingertips like it was a piece of cloth. You know when you take off a glove and you let it hanging? Exactly that way. And I thought it was cloth. As he gets closer, is when you realize it was his skin. And when I look at his face, everybody's screaming in horror. When I look at his face, all this part was hanging off his face. Horror. And everybody's screaming when they see this man, this monstrosity, because it was horrible. And I say, don't move, please don't move. Because I was going to pick up the phone to call the emergency medical unit that was located on the South Tower. On the South Tower, they have the EMS group. And when I went to pick up the phone, BAM! Another explosion, and the building shakes so hard, that you could hear the cracking of the walls again. The fax machine fell on the floor, and the people started running under the door frame, thinking that it was an earthquake, because the floor is moving below us. Moving below us. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I survived the bomb of 1993. 1993, 27th of February, they placed a bomb on the basement of the North Tower. 6 people died, 1,000 people injured. That day I was in an elevator, going express from the first floor to the 78th floor. I got stuck there for hours. They had to break through the walls to get us out because it was an express elevator. So by osmosis and remembering what happened, I'm saying, it's not an earthquake. It's a bomb. Because I went through my experience of 1993. Everybody out now. And everybody was like frozen. He said, follow me, please. I took Mr. Felipe David, I put it on my shoulder, and I started leading the way from the office to the loading dock, from the loading dock through a hill, all the way outside the building, until we get outside. An ambulance is coming. I stop the ambulance, put Mr. Felipe David inside the ambulance. He goes into a coma. When everybody starts to revive this poor man, all of a sudden I hear, a plane hit the building, a plane hit the building. There was a security guard standing right next to the ambulance. It was the security guard that let the people inside of the loading dock. And his radio was going, non-stop, plane hit the building. And that's from the first time that I turned around. And I look up and I saw the hole, I saw the fire, I saw the smoke, and I saw the debris coming down. But again, I never believed it was a plane because it didn't make sense to me. I knew that the area was a no-fly zone. Because in 1986, there was a helicopter accident with the Empire State Building, and they made it impossible for them to fly over that area. So that didn't make sense to me. I said, no, it cannot be a plane. And then when I look up, you see the smoke was so dense that it covered the top of the building, the antenna. And the first thing that goes to my mind, oh my God, the people from Windows. And I meant the people from Windows of the World. Windows of the World was a restaurant that was located on the 106th floor, all the way on the top of the North Tower. And I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, I was supposed to be there. Every morning, when I get there at 8 o'clock, I will punch my card and go straight to the 106th floor to start my working routine. Because I will do the stairwells from the top down. And why would I go every day there? They gave me breakfast for free. And when they give you something for free, you are going to be there on time. So, of course, I knew that my friends, all those people there, my friends, were stuck up there. And I started screaming, we gotta go in! We gotta go back! We gotta go back! And nobody wanted to go back. Please, let's go back. The supervisor, Anthony Saltalamacchia, a guy twice my size, said, Rodriguez, you stay here. You're not going back in. And I got so angry that he said that. He said, those are my friends there. Those are workers there. We gotta help them. The elevator operators, they work for our company. We gotta go back in. No, you stay here. And I got so angry that I took the security guard's radio. I said, the heck with you. And I started running again inside the building, down the hill, to the loading dock, went straight to the South Tower. You see, the North Tower and the South Tower connected to the basement. And the reason that I went to the South Tower was because on the South Tower, after the 93 bombing, they set up something called the OCC, the Operation Control Center, an office to control all the emergencies. You see, after the bomb of 93, at a cost of $155 million, the Port Authority retrofitted the building with security devices and reinforced the area on the basement. So I wanted to let them know that I had a person injured outside the building. And when I got there, I started hitting the window with the radio. Ladies and gentlemen, that was supposed to be manned 24 hours a day. There was nobody there. There was nobody there. And that was never investigated. Never investigated. The OCC for the Port Authority. Okay? So I'm there, screaming for somebody to come out. On the front of the window, you have something called the key lady. We call it the key lady. Was a lady with a big chain of keys for emergencies. She wasn't even there. Nobody was there. A guy comes from the subgrades of the South Tower named Jimmy Barrett. I said, Willie, what's going on? I said, didn't you hear? He didn't hear anything. He was on the South Tower, on the basement, sub-levels of the basement. And that gives you an indication how many people probably died without ever knowing what was going on the South Tower, on those basements. And I told him there was an explosion, there was a fire, there's a guy burned, there's water everywhere. You gotta get out. Get out now. And then I looked to the left, and you see between the North Tower and the South Tower, there was an employee entrance for the Marriott Hotel. The Marriott Hotel was between the North Tower and the South Tower outside. And I found this lady on a podium like this, shaking. And I said, what are you doing here? You gotta get out, you gotta get out. And you know what she said? I heard everything, but I cannot leave because I am a new employee and I don't want to get fired. And I don't want to get fired. The ignorance, because we didn't know what was going on. Ladies and gentlemen, we did not know. While the whole world... No, I'm going to go to the people. You want me to go here? Okay. While everybody out there, and I'm saying the world, was watching this on television, you were getting more information than we did being inside the building. There was cameras everywhere, nicely placed. Hundreds of cameras. How did they get there so fast? How did they get this information so fast? You say, it didn't make sense to us. So I said, ladies, you gotta get out now. I took it out, went straight to the North Tower, and the reason that I went to the North Tower is because there was water everywhere, and I wanted to change the radio, and when I get there, I found only one person that worked for the recycling company. And he said, I hear screams. Ladies and gentlemen, the swooshing sound of the sprinkler system was so loud that you couldn't hear anything. The World Trade Center had more than 150 elevators. And I put my ear in one of the freight elevators, and effectively, there were two people there stuck screaming for help, saying, please, help, we're going to drown. And that didn't make sense to me. And the reason they said that they were going to drown was because the sprinkler system, the water was going down the elevator shaft, and these people took the elevator to try to escape an explosion on the B2 level. They went down instead of going up. They lost power, and they got encapsulated between two floors. Encapsulated. And they're screaming for help. And it's total horror. The scream was horror. And ladies and gentlemen, I was agnostic. I didn't believe in anything. And at that moment, for the first time, I said, God, please help me. And I looked around, and in an area that was supposed to be clean of any construction debris, what do I find? A metal pipe. It's a miracle. Took that metal pipe, put it between the doors with the help of Jimmy Barrett. We opened the doors. Now, when the bottom door hits the floor, all the water that is on my side goes rushing in with more power. Now, it's an empty shaft. I look down, and what do I see? These people with horror. And you're going to ask me, how was I able to see these people? Because a freight elevator doesn't have a ceiling, a roof, like a regular elevator. It's just a metal mesh that you can see through. So the water was going with such a force, and it wasn't coming out because they got encapsulated. And they have the water up to here. And I'm screaming again, God, help me! Agnostic. And all of a sudden, like a flash, I remember that in the area where they had the trash compactors for the towers, the electricians always have ladders that they use there to change light bulbs, to change wires. And I knew that they always tie them up with chains. They always chain them up. So nobody will steal them. You see, it was on the loading dock. You could go with a delivery truck and say, oh, nice ladder, and steal it. So I knew they were all chained up. So I'm going there, agnostic again, running there saying, God, please, let me find one. Let me find one. Ladies and gentlemen, I found one. The longest one of all of them was unchained. It was a miracle that was there basically to save these people. Basically to save these people. I took that ladder, went back in, dropped it inside this shaft, went in with the help of the other guy, opened the got these two people out, one of them Salvatore Giambanco, a painter for the Port Authority who I did not know either. And the other guy was a delivery guy. Took them outside, put them in an ambulance again. And again went by myself down the loading dock, all the way to the North Tower, and I only found one person. Police officer for the Port Authority, David Lim. He was in charge of the K9 unit for the Port Authority. The bomb-sniffing dogs and all that. He was the one in charge of that. His dog, he left on his cage on the South Tower, and he went to the North Tower to check what was going on. When I get there, he said, Willie, do you have the key? Do you have the key? He meant, did I have the master key? Ladies and gentlemen, there were 5 master keys at the World Trade Center. The people with the other 4 were trained on egress, escape, first aid, rescue. They were Port Authority management. They were the first one to run out of the building. Don't blame them. Don't blame them. It's human condition. You don't know. You don't know how you're going to react. I have the other one. And the reason that I had that key was because in 1996, while I was mopping the floors on the top of the building, I slipped. I went down a whole flight of stairs. And I hurt my back. And they couldn't find me for hours. For hours. So I did what became an art afterwards. I sued the Port Authority. I sued the Port Authority under, well, we don't call it a lawsuit, we call it a labor dispute. And I won. And I won the access to the master key. But remember, I have something called security clearance because I worked 10 years with Mario Cuomo. So it made it easier for me to get the key. This is the master key, ladies and gentlemen. They call it the Key of Hope. And it's designated to be part of the museum on Ground Zero. And later on, you can come and take a picture with it. The funny thing is, I did a presentation in UK, in Glasgow, and the only, from countless of interviews, the only one that was a really strange one was a lady from a newspaper that said, how do I know that was not the key for his drinking cabinet? So I went on radio, and I blasted the lady, said, well, lady, very simple. This key has a T2 on it, have a barcode that you can run through the company ASA, and it will come up as the master key of the World Trade Center. And this key has been held by presidents that you saw before, by prime ministers, and by victims of 9/11. I would never, ever dare to play with something like this. So this key was so important because I'm going to give you an idea. You see, when you have, they're going crazy. Eh? When you have a stairwell system, this is the stairwells, ladies and gentlemen. You see this? This is just part. This is one floor. One like this. That makes one floor. One stair, second stair. That makes one floor. As a matter of fact, those sets of pictures that you see here are the only ones available from the stairwell because everything was destroyed at the towers. I made a set of 27 pictures available to the 9/11 Commission, and they never picked them up. Historical material. Then I did it for the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and they never picked them up either. Okay? Historical documents. And you're going to ask me, so why do you have that? He said, well, I did the stairwells, and I wanted to always document problems on the stairwell so I would not get a warning afterwards. You see the broken parts over here.
And now the key was so important because, look, if you read there, it says no re-entry. This is the 40th floor. No re-entry. Nearest re-entry, 43rd and 39th floor. 3 doors will not, and I repeat, will not open. 1 will open. 3 will not open. 1 will open. All the way to the 110 floors. So in 1996, the firemen lost so much time breaking those steel doors. You see those steel plates there, to open the doors. And that's why we have 1,000 injuries. So that's why the key was so important. He said, let's go. We make it to the lobby. When we make it to the lobby, what do I find there? This whole unit of firemen in front of the 58 car. The 58 car was the center elevator. The elevator of so many stories about 9/11. They're waiting there with something called the fire access key, which is a key that the firemen will use. We have a fireman here. It's a key that they use, and they will put it on any elevator, and if the elevator is up, will come down to pick them up. If it's down, it will come up to pick them up. Am I right? So I said, don't wait for the elevator. Let's go. Let's go by the stairwells. I know the best way. All this whole unit, the ladder 6, started following me as we go up the staircase. Now, it was a very sad, and I tell you, the very sad event, because these poor heroes, my heroes, they have between 50 and 125 pounds of equipment in their bags. You know, those machines, they call it the jaws of life, the drills, all of that in their bags. Counting on top of that, they have their jackets, the protective gear, their helmets, and the boots. As we went up the stairwell, remember, the stairwell were not wide enough. That was another problem from the towers. Look at the width of these stairs. We're coming up here, the people is coming down here, and kept bumping onto us. Bumping onto us. So, we decided that to stop on the 3rd floor and change to the A staircase. Now, there were 3 staircases at the World Trade Center. The A, the B, and the C. B was the middle staircase. We changed to the A staircase because it was the staircase that... We went to the A staircase because it was the staircase that faced the South Tower, the area that was impacted by the plane. So as we go up, I found myself sometimes 2 and 3 floors above the firemen, opening doors and letting people out. Again, remember, I don't have all those equipment. I was in a better physical condition. I was doing the stairwells every day. And I will open the doors, I will open the area, and they will go in, they will check the offices, and then I will continue to the other floor. And that was the process. As I go up, I heard, because I was alone at that moment, pa, pa, pa! 3 explosions on the 3rd zone. The 3rd zone was from the 44th floor to the 1st floor. The building was divided in 3 zones. 110 to 78, 78 to 44, 44 to the 1st floor. And when I hear that, I go down and I said to the firemen, what was that? What was that? And you know what they said? It must be the gas tanks blowing up in the kitchens. It must be the gas tanks blowing up in the kitchens. Ladies and gentlemen, the kitchens were all electrical. All electrical. Think about this. The World Trade Center was a Class A building. I have a fireman here who will explain that to you. A Class A building on the building codification established that a building would not have that kind of hazmat material in the offices. It's illegal. Am I right? It's illegal. On top of that, because it was a Class A building, that's why they needed a way to enclosure a fire in a matter of an emergency. That's why those doors were locked. It's a skyscraper, ladies and gentlemen. If there's a fire, the fire is going to go up and consume the building. So they preferred to sacrifice a floor or 2, but save everybody else. That's why those doors were locked. And that's a standard practice. So as we go up, again, scared because I heard that. I don't know what it is. I continue. When I get by the 18th floor, two people come down. One of them says, there's a man on a wheelchair on the 27th floor who is having an asthma attack. He cannot breathe. So I go down again, and I tell the fireman, there's a man on a wheelchair, and he's having problems. What do we do? He said, don't worry. We're going to leave him for the last. I say, what? He's going to be the last one we take out. And I found that so inhumane, so depressing that they said that to me. I said, how dare you say something like that? This is a handicapped person. But later on, I found out, and he will explain to you why, that in a matter of an emergency, the handicapped people is always left for the last, so they will not impede the rescue process. Because imagine, if you go down on a wheelchair, right here, you are obstructing the rescue effort of hundreds of people. And I didn't know that was a standard practice. So I was so angry, oh, how did they say that, And I continue going up. And wow. We made it to the 27th floor. When I made it to the 27th floor, I opened the door, and the whole unit follows me. As we go in, they all collapse, one by one, those firemen, my heroes, they collapse on the floor, one by one on the corridor, because it was impossible for them to continue. They couldn't physically continue anymore. They took their equipment, they took their jackets, some of them took their boots. And when I saw that, I was like, what the heck is going on? Officer Lim, the Port Authority officer, says to me, Willie, do you know this floor? I say, I know this floor. So where can we get water? So on the other side, there's a vending machine that has the bottled water. So let's go. I thought he was going to put coins. He breaks the machine. He breaks the glass from the machine. And we start taking bottled water and put them on trash cans. And we gave them to the firemen. And then I see that one of the firemen is using the phone in that office. It was Blue Cross Blue Shield, that office. And I said, oh, this phone service, let me call. I wanted to call my mother. My family, I come from Puerto Rico, an island in the Caribbean. And I wanted to let my mother know that there was an accident at the World Trade Center so she would not be worried. Little did I know, ladies and gentlemen, was that the news were all over the world again. My mother picked up the phone and started screaming, what are you? What are you? What are you doing? Get out now! Get out! And I said, Mom, I'm okay. Nothing is missing. This is what I said. Nothing is missing, but I'm helping the firemen because they don't know, my ignorance now, they don't know what they're doing. My ignorance now. They don't know. They're totally disoriented and they don't know the stairwells like I do. And I have the master key and I'm going to help them. Don't get to the fire. Don't get to the fire. And ladies and gentlemen, I lied to my mother. I lied to my mother. I said, no, don't worry, Mommy. I'm not going to the area of the fire. And I tell you because if it was up to me, I would have gone through that fire just to get to my friends. And if you ask me if I do that again, I will do it 1,000 times. Because I was recognized for saving so many people, but the people really, I don't consider myself that I saved the people that I really wanted to save. I saved hundreds of people that never got to the World Trade Center windows of the world. My friends, all 67 friends up there died. And I was never able to help them. Ever. So I hung up and I said, Mom, I'll call you later. I hung up the phone. And I see these firemen on the floor. I say, I'm going to go by myself. And I continue by myself going up the stairwells. And as I go up, opening doors, letting people out, I get to the 33rd floor. When I get to the 33rd floor, I found a lady trembling on the floor with no shoes, blonde lady. And I start screaming, what are you doing here? Get out now! Get out now! And you know what she said? I am a new employee. I don't know where to go. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Trade Center was a city within a city. A city within a city. They only have fire drills only twice a year. Now think about this. The dynamic change that happens within a year on a city within a city is a constant. People getting fired, people getting hired, people getting retiring people. It's a constant change. And they only have drills twice a year. They should have mandatory training for any people that work in building, and they didn't. Of course, after 9/11, we work on the new parameters, and we were able to change that. Now any skyscraper need to have that mandatory training. But anyway, she didn't know what to do. So I stood her up, took her to the stairwell. There were 2 people coming down from the 43rd floor cafeteria. And I said, take her down. She started to go down, and I went back to the 33rd floor. Now, the 33rd floor was a very important floor for me because it's where I had my office. You see, I had my office there. Okay. It was a closet. But I call it my office. You see, in there I have all the cleaning equipment for the building. And I wanted to go there to get what I use on the stairwell, which was the dust mask. I wanted to give dust masks to the people because I didn't want them to smell what I was smelling on the stairwell, which was this acrid smoke that was like ammonium and sulfur that stuck in your throat and you couldn't breathe. So I didn't want them to smell that. And as I went to the office, my office, I heard something very strange. On the 34th floor, the floor above me, I heard very strange movement scratching the floor, like heavy equipment scratching the floor. You know, like a metal dumpster with the metal wheels scratching. And it was loud. And ladies and gentlemen, it was the first time ever that I felt fear. The first time I felt fear. Now, it's like something was telling me, be careful, something is wrong there. The first time I bypassed that floor. And you're going to tell me why. Because I knew that floor was empty. That floor didn't have anything. It was a hollowed out construction floor. There was no sheetrock. There was no wires. There was nothing. It was totally demolished by the construction crew. Nothing there. And that was something that was never investigated either. And before you ask me, do you ever find out what was there? What was the strange movement? I was never able to find out. And how do I know that floor was empty? Well, I'll tell you a little secret. I used to have lunch there to hide from my supervisors. And yes, sometimes I slept there. Sometimes I took more than a half an hour lunch. I never had any sex there, before you ask.
Tell the truth.
No, I got married to a reporter after 9/11, so that was before 9/11. So I knew it was an empty floor. I knew for a fact that there was nothing there. Ladies and gentlemen, that scared me. It was like God was telling me, careful. And again, I was agnostic. But something was like driving me away from that floor. And I continued up. And again, I heard pops. But I don't know what those pops were. And I get to the 39th floor. When I get to the 39th floor, from the opposite side of the corridor, David Lim, the police officer, comes up with two fire chiefs because I had this white shirt with the emblems on it. And we meet in the middle talking about what was going to be our next part of the rescue effort. And while we're talking there, we hear, boom! An explosion again, very loud, which was the building, the South Tower, getting hit by the other plane. And it was so loud that it created a wave movement in our building. And all of a sudden, in our building, not the building that got hit by the plane, we hear, pa, 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 pa. And boom, a collapse. And on the security B channel radio that we had, we hear, we lost 65, we lost 65. Meaning the 65th floor went down floor by floor by floor by floor up to the 44th floor, the sky lobby. And this is something that was never investigated either. As a matter of fact, you don't see these on the videos from the outside of the building. You don't see it. Yes. And it was so loud, so scary, that I go into a desperation. I start screaming, we got to go in, we got to go up, we got to go up, we got to help those people. And police officer said, Willie, you've done enough, but you don't get paid for this. I said, I'm going up, buddy. Those are workers up there. I'm going up. He said, Willie, you're still a civilian, and you're my responsibility. Better if you leave. And I said, David, I'm not leaving. I'm going up. I don't care what you say. And you know what he said? Better if you give me a hand with the man on the wheelchair on the 27th floor and get out. And I said, you know what I'm going to do, Dave? I'm going to go down. I'm going to help this guy. I'm going to take him out. But I'm coming right back because I'm not giving the key to anybody. And I did the same mistake of the lady because I don't want to get fired. You see, because if I took that key and I lost it, I will be automatically fired. You don't need a plane to bring the building down. You just needed a master key. You will have access to everything. If I lost this, and I was reminded by the Port Authority constantly, they will charge me to replace 110 floors of locks at $125 each. I'd be broke for life. So I said, I'm not giving the key to anybody, my little friend. And so I ran down to the 27th floor. When I go to the 27th floor, I scream, I have orders to get this man out right now. 3 firemen stood up. Mr. Ed Bayet, that was his name, Ed Bayet, paraplegic, was already placed on a rescue basket. He was tied up on this rescue orange basket. And I said, let's go. 3 guys stood up. We picked him up. We started going down the stairwell. As we go down the stairwell, something that I didn't realize before came to my attention, ladies and gentlemen. You see, through the whole process of rescuing and helping people, I didn't realize I actually blocked the screams of the people stuck inside the elevators. People, in horror, yelling for help. And I didn't have the training, the tools, or the knowledge of how to help these people. And when you hear these people, and you never hear about these experiences. Have you ever heard of this experience? No. When you hear this, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. And when I hear that, all of a sudden we hear this huge collapse. The South Tower collapses. And it was so powerful that we lost our footing. And then again we heard pa, 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 pa inside our building. And then because the building shakes so much at the fall of the other tower, the fluorescent lights, they started breaking in line because the holders were changing positions. And you could hear them in unison going clash, 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 clash all the way down. I remember looking at the guy. His eyes are coming out, basically in horror. And I said, don't worry, after this we're going to go and get a beer. And he said, yeah. I don't drink. I just wanted to have him as part of the rescue effort. And as we go down, we make it to the lobby. And right there, 3 firemen come up. And one of them said, get the ambulance ready. When I looked straight to the front, all the elevators were open. The doors were open from the bottom up, like this. The doors, open like this, on the lobby. Again, an indication that something very powerful blew up from the basement and opened the doors. Why they didn't open this way? Why all of them like this? As a matter of fact, there were pictures, and there was some of the footage which was edited by Major Giuliani when he was involved with the French film. It was taken out. Where you see that. So, of course, when I see this, I realize that all the beautiful marble that was on the lobby was pulled from the walls. There was bare walls. The only thing that you saw was the cement patches. And I'm saying, oh my God, what's going on? This gray dust everywhere. And I go straight, because they told me get the ambulance ready. I'm going straight to the front of the building, the main entrance, which was the West Side Highway entrance. And as I get there, as I get closer, I see destruction everywhere. I see all the glass is broken into pieces. There was glass everywhere, not a glass intact. Then where the revolving doors were, it's empty. There's no door there. And I get to that area. When I get to that area, I look straight to the front. And across the street, a block and a half away, on the World Financial Center, the police have the area cordoned out. So nobody will go in. And they're screaming at me, don't look back, don't look back, don't look back. And when they tell you don't look back, what do? You look back. And I look back. And I saw the most horrible thing I ever seen in my life. I saw all the bodies of people that jumped out of the building. You couldn't recognize anybody. It's like they melted on the floor. I guess the power of the impact of coming so high was so powerful that the only thing that you recognized was the clothing. That's it. And I'm screaming, God, what's going on? And then I look around and I saw the only thing that I recognized. That lady that I helped escape from the 33rd floor. I found her cut in half. I've done this speech hundreds of times. But when I get to this part, it's just like I relive that every time. I saw that lady, and I speculate because it's my theory, the only way I can handle it. I said that probably she came out and said, God, I saved myself, and a piece of glass came from all the way on the top of the building. I cut it in half like a guillotine. And when I saw that, I started screaming, God, what is this? What is this? What is this? And everything started to tremble, shaking. And I hear, run, run, run! And I see the police running across the street. And they're running away. I have nowhere to run. The only thing I saw, a distance from here to the cameras, was a fire truck. And I ran towards the fire truck because I knew that the building, if it collapsed, it was going to kill everybody. You see, if you took the building and put it sideways, we'll get all the way down to Canal Street. So I figured, that's it. I'm dead. And I sleep right under the fire truck. And the only thing I said was, again, agnostic. God, please, don't give my mother the pain to see my body in parts. Let her recognize my body. I didn't want my mother to see what I just saw. I wanted my mother to recognize me, to identify my body. And the building started to collapse right on top of me. Pa, 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 pa! And the truck going down, down, down. I could feel in my face the muffler still, because the engine was still running. The heat. As a matter of fact, all this area was burned. And again, the only thing I was praying for was for my mother. I never prayed a single thing for me. All of a sudden, it's like he's listening to me. Everything stops. But then this dust came from all over. And remember that famous cloud of dust everybody's running away from? But I'm in the middle of that. It burned my face. It burned my body. And then I said, I'm not dying now, squashed to death, but I'm now going to die of asphyxia. So I put my face under my shirt so I could breathe. And luckily, from across the street, CNN and Global Vision from Brazil, television station, they said the last man out came out from that area. And that's how they started the rescue efforts. That's how I was pulled from the rubble 4.5 hours after. Little did I know, once I get pulled from the rubble, that another miracle happened, because, as you can see here, I was pulled from right under here. Once I get pulled from the ground, the tires blew up. The tires blew up. If those tires blew, while I was under the truck, I'd be squashed to death. After 9/11, I stayed there on the rescue effort because I didn't break a bone. It's a miracle that I survived under all that rubble and I didn't break a single bone. I did open my knee from side to side, but it was superficial. Little burns here, little burn there. And they got confused. They thought I was a fireman because I have a jacket that said rescue, safety 11. And they thought I was part of the firemen. So I stayed there during the whole rescue effort until I was sent out. The funny thing is that during the whole process, CNN saw me, ABC News saw me, and Global Vision of Brazil saw me, and they called me. And I said, oh, well, I have the opportunity. Maybe my mother will be able to see me, because once the antenna came out of the tower, there was no cellular service in the area. And I wanted somebody to see me and let my mother know. Little did I know that my story went all over the world. And yes, my mother found out. Somebody called her. But just imagine the pain of a mother hanging up with his son, and all of a sudden she sees the other plane coming and hitting the other tower, and now she's confused. She don't know in what tower I was. And she's praying, oh, I hope my son is okay. And then the tower collapses. They said, well, I hope he's on the other tower. And then the other tower collapses. She almost died. She almost died. My mother almost died. So, ladies and gentlemen, after 9/11, my story went all over the world. It was cut, it was edited, it was changed, it was manipulated constantly. And I figured during that time that it was part of the editing process of the news. That you have to convey the story within a minute or two. Little did I know was that my story was presented in Spanish all over the world without any editing. But in the United States, they cut out everything about the explosions, everything about the man on the wheelchair, everything about Mr. Felipe David. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is that even the reporters that were actually reporting my story, they used to say, well, this is Spider-Man. That was the internal joke. They really didn't believe my story. They didn't believe it. But it made great news. Because remember, everything was concentrated on the heroes, the cops and the firemen, and they needed other people as well. So they wanted to make it, oh wow, the janitor, this is a great story. But they really didn't believe it. Until 3 months after, while I'm already working for the victims and doing press conferences, Felipe David comes out of a coma and calls the doctor and said, that's the man that saved me. 13 weeks after, a man burned 33% of his body. That's Felipe David. They do the reunion for national TV. Never met the guy. Never met the guy. They interview him. You see, this is the part that I was saying that was hanging off his face. That's after surgery. It was the whole face. And he validates the story because once they ask him, It was exactly the same story, and I never met the guy. And then they put it on national TV, and then they caught it again. They caught it again. After that, Jose Sanchez, one of the people that I saved, was on the B2 level, burned all the back of his head, and validate the story. Then after that, Officer Lim survived under the rubble. They do the reunion for Telemundo Network, owned by NBC. It goes all over Latin America, not United States. They cover a little bit in the United States, but everything in Spanish. And he tells exactly the same story. And again, they caught it. And just to make it easier, Salvatore Gianbanco, they do another encounter for television, that's ABC, and the Christian Television Network. You see the cross there? Very nice, huh? Makes a perfect picture. On Ground Zero, never met the guy, and his story exactly the same. His testimony was never heard by the 9/11 Commission. Never heard! Felipe, never heard. And why do we do this? You see, being recognized, being given every honor that you can imagine, but how convenient that the truth is not good enough for them. How convenient that, we do this because we owe it, the truth, to the survivors, the victims, and those affected by 9/11. But again, how convenient that they don't need this kind of testimonies. I'm here because of a miracle. I'm here because God gave me that second opportunity. God chose that on that day, I was going to be saved. He gave me that opportunity. He gave me that second chance. Why do this? I don't do this for money. Ladies and gentlemen, I was homeless last year. Homeless. Living under a bridge. I was doing interviews. And as you know, on the news, they don't pay you for interviews. I was doing the interviews. And then I will be car under a bridge because I lost my apartment, $68,000 that I had saved. I spent it all to help the victims. I was the image for the American Red Cross and the Salvation Army to collect funds and something called the PSA, the Public Service Announcement in Spanish, that you can download. Don't take my word for it. You can download it from my website, 9/11 Keymaster, or you can do it through Google. All available. So, I denied the 9/11 Federal Compensation Fund, even though I was guilty of doing a PSA also for Kenneth Feinberg in Spanish to identify the people so they could receive compensation, which was a bailout for the airline industry, the government, and the Port Authority. I did not get a single penny from them. So, it wasn't for money. It's not for fame either. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm already part of history. Like it or not, it's part of that history. I cannot change that. I don't need to do this. I have suffered already enough. I lost 200 friends on 9/11. 200 friends that are still claiming for justice, not counting the other 3,000. And don't believe the official story of how many people died there. We identify 105 people that were never counted. Why? Because they were undocumented workers. Undocumented workers. And they were not counted because, hey, the liability will be too expensive for them. Why do we do this? Again, after 9/11, 5 years after, and Dr. Doc Rocky can talk to you about it, we have 100 first responders that have died because of the environmental disaster that was created when the towers collapsed. And again, the EPA lied to us about how sickening was the environment at that time. All the rescue dogs, all of them, have died. all the rescue dogs. There's 62,000 people ill. And how do we know this? We got the information from the Workers' Compensation Board, but they don't recognize Ground Zero syndrome because it will be the biggest liability case ever in the state of New York. Ever. They have used 9/11 as an excuse to criminalize, to demonize the Muslim community. They have been effectively eliminating 50 years of civil rights with the excuse of our disaster. Our disaster has been the catalytic event that changed the history of the new millennium. Everything is being measured before 9/11, after 9/11. We do this because we're losing our rights. Losing our rights because they sold us a lie. 9/11 didn't happen like the government said. And 5 years after, the families are still claiming for justice. 5 years after, we still have open wounds because we don't know the truth. But the government came out with an official story. They said this is a conspiracy theory. Oh, how funny. The biggest conspiracy theory was placed first by the government of the United States. That's how it all started. I am an eyewitness. I was there. I experienced it. I saw it. I have the people to validate. My testimony has been used in court. My testimony was one of the first study testimony to be used against Zacarias Moussaoui. They needed somebody that will tell the whole ordeal from the beginning to the end of the collapse of the towers. But once they started talking about they were going to talk about the death penalty. Hey, guys, I just saved hundreds of people. How am I going to ask for the death penalty of somebody that I don't know if he's guilty or not? Who gave you that power? So take it upon yourself to investigate. Like I said, don't take my word for it. Listen, you can even download from the fire department all these transmission talking with me. You can hear me on those transmissions. Why the 9/11 Commission failed to investigate so many things? Why was the steel from the World Trade Center was removed from the area and sold to Malaysia, Singapore, and Japan to make paper clips a week after? Why a supervisor for the FAA took 1.5 hours recordings of the planes and the control towers and erased them, and when he was asked, he said, I didn't want the families to have the grief of listening to that. It's the families who have been at the vanguard to make this all available. Because we want to know. Take it upon yourself, learn the truth, avoid losing your rights. Continue searching for the truth. Or become a slave. I'm doing my part. It's now time for you to do yours. I was a janitor. I didn't have, and I don't have the credentials. But people here have more credentials than I do. And you can make a change. If you cannot do it, then support the people that are making that change. Ladies and gentlemen, may God bless you. Thank you.
I need to get card.
I'll give you another one.
That's not a problem. Folks, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Please. They left anyway. That's okay. Folks, it's a tough act to follow. It's a really tough act to follow. I want you to know that William, as far as I'm concerned, is a national treasure. I don't know if anybody here, myself included, can truly comprehend the impact of what his words carry and how important his message is. I don't think that there is a person that's in this country that can affect as much of a change. It has the potential to impact as many lives as William Rodriguez right now. Folks, I met Willie about 3 years ago. We sat down and talked, and we sort of hit it off. And William and I have become pretty good friends over the past 3 years. We've met in a lot of these different meetings. We've been out to dinner. I met him and his wife right after they were married. I've been to his house, well, if you can call it a house, his apartment. Now, his basement. And then I haven't been in the ladies' room. I've been in the men's room. And all you guys, if you've been in the men's room out here, I want you to picture what that men's room is like if you took out the bathroom stalls and took out those little dividers and you figure out what that square footage is. It's not really a big space. But that's approximately the amount of living space that William lives with his wife. I hope you don't mind me talking about this, William, but, you know, there are folks out there. There are folks out there that want to try to berate William and say he's in it for this and he's in it for that. I get that same kind of crap, too. But, folks, I've been there. His apartment is a basement apartment, and it's not big enough for a dining room table. There's a bed, and there's a little kitchenette, and there's a bathroom, and that is it. This man is living a very humble existence, but that's not the point. The point is that his voice is the most valuable voice that we have in the 9/11 truth community. I don't think anybody will dispute that. And his voice must be heard. Now, there's another voice that's joined him. As of tonight, you were the first people to get to hear her speak. April Gallup is now coming forward after remaining somewhat quiet, and understandably, for the past several years, because she's trying to raise a young son. But now, after seeing how many people are coming out with more information about what the hell happened on this horrendous day, and now the amount of information that's coming forward that is not just challenging, but decimating the official story, and those that are still clinging on to this issue that the terrorists did it, the terrorists did it, the terrorists did it. Folks, how do you explain an explosion going off in the base of the tower before the plane hits? Did Mosawi place that bomb? Did Osama place that bomb? Folks, yeah, the Patsy story is real. Yeah, there were Islamic extremists involved, but they weren't involved in the way that we were told. The real story has got to come out. It has got to come out. And the voice of William Rodriguez and April Gallup must be heard. Because if it's not heard and the truth isn't known and justice is not served, it's going to be just like that movie Ghost. How many folks saw Patrick Swayze in Ghost? And you remember that? He plays the part of a guy named Sam Wheat who's murdered. And his soul can't rest until the real murderer is brought to justice. Well, I feel the same thing is true with all of those poor souls that perished on September 11th. Those 3,000 or 3,500 or whatever the number is, I don't know. But those souls are screaming for justice. And justice will not be served unless voices like William Rodriguez and April Gallup are heard. Now, William's life has been turned upside down. He can't work. He has become persona non gratis. He's been blackballed and blacklisted. And the same thing, unfortunately, is happening to April Gallup. Folks, we cannot let these people's voices fall silent for lack of funds. Now, I am going to ask you, I'm going to beg you to please donate as deeply as you possibly can. Understand how desperately important this information is. Because the fate of the entire free world and enslaved world depends upon their message getting out and the truth being heard. Right. I'm begging you to please donate right now. We're going to pass a box around or whatever. If we got something that we could put some money in, some jars, please give as much as you possibly can because they can't work. Raise your hand if you'd like to donate, please. If you'd like to throw in some money. I've seen it, William. What? Oh. By the way, if you'd like to donate, William wants you to have one of these discs as well. All right? Now, folks, I can't tell you how important this is. I don't think I need to tell you how important this is. I shouldn't have to tell you how important this is. This man was there. He'd been there, done that, and owns exclusive rights for designing the freaking T-shirt. So please, donate. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this money goes directly to William and to April because we have got to keep them out there. We've got to keep them in the public eye. We've got to keep their voices out there. This is desperately important. And I make this plea not because it promotes my issue or my video. Or that's not it. That's not it, folks. I cannot tell you how important it is to understand that, Willie's not in this for ego. He's not in this for recognition. I bet you if you could turn the clock back, he would wish this thing never happened and he could go back to his life. And I'll bet you April would say the same thing. They don't want this responsibility. Do you understand what a burden this is for William to go around, not just the country, but around the world? This isn't something I would wish on my worst enemy. But for whatever reason, God Almighty has given him this job. And I think that now he understands how important this job is, and I think April Gallup now understands how important her job is. Now, we have two people out there that are willing to carry this torch and carry this burden, but they can't do it without your support. So please, give, and then if you can afford it, give again. We have to continue to fund these people. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I really don't. I can't think of another issue that's more important right now than to keep their voices heard because for the love of God and country and for the sake of your unborn great-grandchildren, they will either curse our complacency or they will applaud our activism. And this is one way that we can show it. Thank you.
Folks, I want to add to what David said because like you heard, that it's kind of great to be a national hero, but then again, for Willie, it was in going back, living under the bridge. And Willie was too modest to tell you about a lot more of the stuff that the devastation that put him through, and April didn't mention anything at all. But April Gallup, she's walking with a cane because of the explosion. And you'd think the government would give her a disability check, right? Working for the Department of Defense, got injured on the job. She would get some kind of disability payment there. And on top of that, she gets something from the 911 compensation fund for what happened to her. She would get paid for that too, right? Millions got allocated to her. But she was told that just because we have the money in the 911 Victims Compensation Fund, it doesn't mean we have to give it to the victims. She was told those words. She's messed, but they got the classified, I forgot how she said it, as something off, like in a limbo, legal technical games. Oh, we cannot process your application forward from here to get there because, for you to get paid money. So it's here in limbo. No money, no job. You can't work for somebody else because you're technically still working for the government, and she doesn't know anything about the rights. And supposedly some lawyers that approached to try to help her, they sold out. They didn't tell her she has formal rights to appeal these things. Everything's done informally. So here I talked to her, I found out they're messing with her. And so the creditors give a few years to catch up. But then after, it's been, over 5 years from September 1? The Curtis get tired. She's about to be moved out, kicked out of her place with her child, forced to take a high interest loan to survive. And folks, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And you know what? That's not going to change and stop unless somebody kicks in and does something about it. When I heard about that, I said, April, I know you've been lied to before. I know you've been sold a bill of goods. I know you've been promised. But I'm telling you, April, I know a lot of people, true patriot Americans, who really care. We've done it for other people, like Willie. And come on out, and I want to put you in touch with the whole family of real patriotic Americans you didn't know, and they will help out. They'll make the difference. They'll start the ball rolling. That's going to get bigger, the snowball, and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what we did, April and I, last June at our 5-year anniversary. We helped Willie because he was absolutely, totally broke. He said, Paymon, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I said, Willie, we don't want you to stop doing what you're doing. We got to take you in front of people. Nobody has taken you and helped you. Get the stuff out there. Well, he said, well, one guy gave me a few thousand. But that's it, but that was all it was. I said, well, in 2.5 days, we took to his speech of the last Freedom Conference he gave us a year ago. In 2.5 days, we produced 1,500 CDs and DVDs, Freedom Law School, of our students' funds. And we replicated all that for him, took it to Alex Jones' event in L.A., and helped and donated to him and raised some money for him there. Told him, here, take the rest with you. You got something now, at least. Which is the reason why we ask people not to get his speech out. It's not that we don't want to get his speech out on your DVD cameras. It's because the arrangements need to be made for him to stay out there, to talk in front of more audiences. And if no one's funding it, folks, it ain't going to happen. Who is going to be funding this quest for truth and justice? Who? Is the U.S. government doing it with your taxes? No? Well, folks, don't give your taxes to the criminals and give it to the people that really are seeking truth and justice to the right thing. Right here. Folks, at our banquets at Freedom Law School, I know we raise money for very good people. Good people we brought, Sheriff Richard Mack, Joe Bannister, others people that really were deserving heroes. And, we were so glad and happy to help them out in their quest for truth and justice. But I submit to you that helping April and Willie is more important than all that. And I think Joe Bannister would agree with you on that. So, folks, some of you gave $1,000 checks. Please do that, because Freedom Law School is going to help organize the surviving families that care and have these guys seek the justice by going to the grand juries. Is that what we need to do? Because they can do it. Citizen grand juries, not government. Citizen grand juries. And it's going to happen with the people in this room, folks. Please, reach down deep and see what you can do, what you want to do to help out these guys. Give what you can tonight. And then when you go home, look at your situation more carefully and help out tomorrow also. Okay? All right. If you, at Freedom Law School, I told Willie, I said, anything I can do, let me know. And all I can do is be a messenger, assistant. He has no secretary. He has no help. I said, call anybody at Freedom Law School. We do whatever we can for you anytime. So, he doesn't put his phone number out because everybody will be calling him all the time. Hey, Willie, I want to talk to you. Hey, Willie, you're great. Hey, Willie, you're wonderful. Well, all that stuff will not put food on his table. Will not keep him on the road. That's why we ask you to not call him. Don't ask for his number, okay? Just like Joe Bannister doesn't give his number out too much because everybody will call the blue out of him. Okay? he's asked us to take the calls for him and help coordinate this effort for him and for April. So please join hand. If you've given, maybe give again, and we can take America back, folks, with your help, with your support. Thank you.
Well, I'm embarrassed by this. I really am. But in reality, we have done everything on shoestring, gone all over the world, and basically we are funding everything through donations. We have been able, funny story is that I did this whole tour in UK, and we raised, selling DVDs, we raised, was it 3,000 pounds? That's $6,500. But then, it's so funny, that after we raised that fund, I was given wonderful news before I left to UK. Went to the doctor's office and said, congratulations, you're expecting my first baby. And the doctor didn't know who I was and said, and the baby is due September the 11th. Yeah, a miracle by itself. But while I was in UK, my wife lost the baby. And I have to cancel the whole thing. And we're expecting that baby. That was the mission. That was the mission. That was my hope. And so, of course, from the $6,500 that we raised, $750 went for the airline ticket the same day to come back because they don't care. And then $2,200 to pay the hospital. So automatically, all the effort that we did in a month on going and spreading the truth was eliminated, basically by these kind of things. And it's kind of embarrassing, and that's why I control as much as I can my story. Everybody wants to use the story, and that's why I need to at least be able to control the only thing that I have, the only mean of putting food on the table, and it's my story. And I expect people to respect that as well. We're going to put like Payment said, we set up this DVD from one of the presentations, and we sell it for like $15 just to raise funds. And the picture that I have from the World Trade Center that was taken the day before. But we are basically planning a new DVD from the tour in UK where you can see the reaction over there. We went city by city. It's going to be something like Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore, because we went to the people, door by door, venue by venue, and it worked. You can see firemen, marshals from other countries asking for this. So please, take it upon yourself, like I said. If you cannot do it, then support the people that are doing. I'm doing the change. I'm an activist. I've been against the war in Iraq. I have been vilified by my own government. And another thing you guys don't know, national hero, and they put me on the no-fly list. I am on the no-fly list. And every time that I have to fly and leave the country, I am put on a room, asked questions, who's paying for the trip, what am I doing, what am I going to talk about that, everything. They always let me go because under the AFTA agreement, Section 148B established that a person could not be held without charges. And since they have no charges, they have to let me go. But I always lose my plane when I go to these countries, always. But eventually I make it over there and I tell the information. The story has to go out. The effort of the families and the victims has to go out. The world is more open because they have been brought into this coalition of the willing to fight something, a war created by an international political agenda that we did not, and I repeat, we did not agree with from the very beginning. The President of the United States called us at the White House when the whole thing with Iraq broke out. He wanted the support of the families of 9/11. And he says Saddam Hussein is behind 9/11. People forget about that. Talk to the historians here. They will tell you. And when we said there's no connection between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, they changed to weapons of mass destruction. But they wanted to make the connection from the very beginning with 9/11. Richard Clark, Czar of Intelligence,
said that our government have failed you, and they have failed the families of 9/11. Richard Clark, the top intelligence guy. So, again, please help as much as you can. We're trying to do this outreach as much as possible, but sometimes it's very difficult because we found this ours. This camera was given to us by the donations of Freedom Law School. And with that camera, we were able to document all the efforts that we have done around the world. So, Payman, thank you so much for all your effort as well. Your organization, and you're my brother. You're really my brother. So I'll be signing DVDs over here, so anybody wants to get a DVD. And yes, you can go to my website, which has PayPal on it. It's in www.911, the numbers 911keymaster.com. 911keymaster.com. We want to be able to do an effort later in the future. Anybody that donates at least $50 for the DVD that we are going to create, we're going to create a documentary. Their names will be on the credits. You are going to be on the credit of this effort that will be seen by millions of people. So that's something that you can do through 911keymaster.com. God bless you, and I'll be here signing DVDs. So.